Welcome. My name is Munib Minhazuddin from VMware. I'm here to talk to you about, how to work from home and, continue your business operations as you go, and how to quickly set up your remote workforce for success. First, though, I think it's very important that, we're all in this together. We're going through some unprecedented times of, crises and this pandemic that all of us are kind of going through. Our families, our communities, our customers, or employees are embracing this new reality. This is scaling hundreds of countries now, hundreds of thousands of citizens. So our number one goal is your well-being and your safety. And I hope you're safe with your families, you're taking care of yourself, and and your loved ones. So that's a priority, and then make sure in all the busyness that you're taking care of everyone, right? So I think next I want to probably go and see how we as a company, VMware, were able to respond to this crisis and get almost our 32,000 employees in 120 locations switched over to remote working instantly in less than 24 hours. And then, from that learning, show some, methodologies and approaches that you can leverage if you're looking for help to do the same, right? So, I think a lot of times, companies have contingency plans. We've had a pandemic contingency plan for 4 years, which we put into effect. So, you put a plan, you prepare for it, and when something happens, you declare your intent and you respond, and eventually you recover from that crisis, right? So, right now, what we're finding is most organizations like yourself and a small, medium, large, all sizes are in that response mode, right? So they're trying to figure out, how do I respond more effectively and efficiently so I can keep my business going as usual? And we've taken from our experience, we've shared a prescriptive approach of doing that. And I think the number one thing is to establish communication. It's just set up an internal access portal so everybody, all your employees, can get access to your services, which is the number one thing you want to do. And as you can establish that and get them access, then you got a stock take of your inventory of your resources. How many, what's your infrastructure like? Are your devices in place? Are your is everybody got a device? Have the tools they get to that and have access to it. Now, once your infrastructure and access infrastructure is in place, then you have to start thinking about the applications that you want to expose. How do you get the business critical applications to your employees? Are those being hosted in your data center, or do I need more scale to get out into other infrastructure like cloud? So how do you keep business as usual? First is like, get your employees all connected and working on their applications. Second is, how do you serve your customers and who are looking for help? So how do you switch on a digital channel? Could be call centers or anything that you can reach out to your customers and make sure that you keep your business as usual going on. Now, as you establish this, you obviously are looking to try to secure it, scale it, and support the whole organization doing that, and finally collaborate and continue and eventually kind of recover from this process. So we've seen, that we can provide help there. That's how we used our own, solutions to kind of come around. But in order to help you, we have really kind of, package a few solutions so that we can see the maturity of this as walls, so you can efficiently work from home. First and foremost, you need access to your workspace, right? So we're able to deliver those digital workspaces to your choice of mobile, personal devices, and as well as virtual desktops or physical devices that you can get from anywhere, right? So I think a Workspace ONE solution is able to deliver that workspace in a consumer simple way, but enterprise secure. Security is very important now. People are trying to access corporate assets from home machines if they're using virtual desktops. So how do you secure those? So we're seeing security is huge, especially with a lot of phishing attacks now coming in for the home computer. So your home computers may get compromised and that may kind of move into your corporate environment. So you're using endpoint protection detection tools like Carbon Black to help kind of secure those. And as you try to get this, scale this into the network, we're seeing a huge load in the network traffic. So we're trying to prioritize that through our, NSX SD-WAN capabilities. So you can prioritize your traffic as your whole family is working from home, business traffic from some home traffic, which may not be of priority to you, right? And then finally, as you host a lot of this desktops, maybe from your data center running out of capacity, we're seeing how you can scale elastically in the cloud to get some additional, data center capacity, in the cloud. So we're seeing, customers going through this in their own kind of, based on their journey. So kind of the, get started on the end user. So if you are short of PCs, we're working with partners like, Dell Technologies to get PCs shipped to your house if you're short of physical assets, or if you already have those, where using Workspace ONE with virtual desktops, or your mobile fully secure with Carbon Black. As you host these, either you host this on-prem on your infrastructure. If you don't have on-prem capacity, how do you scale it with our partnerships, either with VMware Cloud and AWS, or Azure or IBM, your choice of cloud providers, where you can scale this, and finally, how do you kind of get better optimization of your traffic and prioritization with SD-WAN by VeloCloud, and load balancing of all your desktops with NSX Advanced Load Balancer. So that's the full set of solutions that we have. Today, we wanted to go deeper on one of them. We don't have time to go into all of them, but today I wanted to go deeper in the topic of know, understand, and execute network monitoring and analytics with SD-WAN.
Yes, hello. My name is Jaspreet Bhatia, and I'm a Senior Technical Product Manager with the VeloCloud Business Unit in VMware. Today, I report to Tim Van Herk. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it today, so I'm his replacement. So today, I'll try to take you through some of the monitoring, analytics, visibility enhancements, and capabilities that we have with the VMware SD-WAN. We're going to talk about all the inbuilt capabilities. We're going to talk about the capabilities you have for troubleshooting, having some visibility into how your SD-WAN is performing, and then look into troubleshooting tools that are inbuilt into the platform and provide you with a great way of troubleshooting all your SD-WAN connections, right? And finally, we'll talk about our integration with vRealize Network Insights, which is VMware's official analytics tool. We'll talk about this integration and where we're going with that. And finally, we're going to have a little demo here today, and we will show how does vRealize Network Insights, or VRNI, as we like to call it for short, how does VRNI help with SD-WAN troubleshooting, right? We'll talk about a problem that exists outside of SD-WAN, and we'll see how VRNI catches that. And then we'll talk about problems that could be within the SD-WAN fabric, and we'll see how VRNI troubleshoots and catches that. And as you know, VRNI itself can handle many different domains, such as NSX, vSphere, public cloud environments. So we will look at holistically what VRNI is able to do along with the SD-WAN and go through that, right? So without further ado, let's get started with the material. So that's the high-level agenda for this session today. How do I know my SD-WAN is working, right? How do I know my network is available? And then how do I check for network availability? How do I look for the application performance? How can I predict application performance? What kind of alerts and notifications are available to me, and how do I consume them, right? How can I troubleshoot problems with my SD-WAN network? What kind of troubleshooting tools are available to me? How do I use those troubleshooting tools, right? And finally, we might talk about how do I do some trending and capacity planning with the tools that are at my disposal. Okay, so let's start with this, right? So is when you log into, so our main tool to monitor, configure, and have visibility and troubleshoot is called the VeloCloud Orchestrator, or VCO for short, right? So when you log in as an enterprise admin, let us say, right? So this is the first page that you will see. Now this is called the enterprise dashboard. And we are enhancing the enterprise dashboard in recent releases. So we've added a lot of stuff. Now, some of the things that you can see in the enterprise dashboard here is the network overview, right? This is your entire network. How many edges do you have? How many are online? How many are degraded? So all of this information is here. Now, as you can see, it also has a list of the edges with their status, right? So each edge, you will get a green or a red status, whether it's online or offline. You will get the number of links. And if you hover over the number of links, you will see that it'll tell you what kind of ISPs the links are connected to. It will also show you the date and the name of the edge, of course, right? And then to be followed by other information such as what kind of profiles, what kind of VNFs, what kind of non-VeloCloud sites, how many segments are there, what kind of software versions are you running. So a lot of information here in this one page. And that's your one-stop shop. Like that's where you would start from if you wanted a high-level view of how your SD-WAN network was performing. Okay, so if we narrow down into a site, right? Let's take a look at a site and narrow down into a site. So now, at this point of time, we have some filters available to you. There's a search tool, right? And so, for example, let us say that we wanted to check the status of all the edges that are available to us, that are connected, that are not offline. So we can use filters here. Let's take a search for all the edges that are connected, and we'll get that list, right? Now, from here, we can get a lot of details about the particular edge, like what is the software version of the edge, what is the link status, what is the HA status, what kind of profile is the edge using, right? And also, we use geolocation software to map the edges to their physical location on a map, right? So that is a useful way to find out which edge is where and what is the status of the edge, right? So let's go on to the next slide. Okay, now this slide here is showing you the monitor edges page, right? So once you get into the monitor edges page, you have a few tabs available to you. So this here is the overview tab. Now at the overview tab, the first thing that you will see is the link status, right? Now at the link status, it will tell you how many ISPs, how many connections does that particular edge have, first of all. This one has two connections, one to AT&T Uverse and one to Verizon Wireless, right? And you'll see, okay, one of the connections is connected to a Gig 3 Ethernet port. The other connection to Verizon Wireless is connected via a USB dongle, and this is like an LTE connection, right? And usually used for backup. Now, this will also give you throughput and bandwidth. This will tell you if there's any alerts. This will give you values of latency, jitter, and packet loss going on each of those links. And then if you move further down, you will see what are the top applications in that branch that the edge is located in. What are the top applications? Then you'll see a pie chart of the kind of applications that are running in your branch, the top operating systems, the top sources, right? Now, these statistics can be analyzed across time, right? So we can do 60 minutes to almost to 2 weeks, and we can look at the stats from 2 weeks old. Okay. Next, we wanted to cover the QE tab, right? Now, the quality of experience score is, so this is a score that we calculate for 3 different kinds of traffic, right? Now, this is voice, video, or transactional. So this is how the applications are performing in that category of voice, video, or transactional on that given link, right? Now, quality of experience score is derived from certain metrics like latency, jitter, packet loss. All of these will together determine the quality of experience scores, right? Now, the quality of experience score can be good, fair, or bad, right? Now, you can see the color coding for good, fair, and bad. And depending upon certain thresholds, we will classify the application experience as one of these scores, right? Now, the quality of experience score is calculated for the transport links and the overlay tunnel as well, right? Now, one of the big use cases for the QoE score could be that, okay, let's see if the ISP is meeting their SLA or not, right? And let's see the before and after experience. So if you see the before experience, now this one will tell you that, okay, there are certain links that are having a poor quality of experience, right? Score. Now, after applying the VeloCloud enhancements, right, you get a perfect 10 quality of experience score, which means that in spite of the links having problems, VeloCloud SD-WAN was able to apply some remediation actions and was able to smooth out the application traffic experience on that link, on that overlay, and get a perfect 10 quality of experience score. Okay, so moving on to the next tab, which is transport. Now, these are the detailed metrics of the transport links across time, right? It'll tell you how many packets are inbound, outbound, in both directions, right? And you can go down into the TCP UDP details. So this is also the place where you would do live monitoring of your traffic flows, right? So if you click on that button called Start Live Monitoring. Now this is where you can then break it down into TCP, UDP, or other, and you can see what kind of traffic is flowing live on your transport links, right? Now coming back to the transport links, so there's a bunch of metrics here that you can actually monitor. If you consider average throughput, total bytes, total packets, bandwidth, latency, packet loss, jitter. So all of these metrics you are able to monitor at this page. So this is a good page to find out how your transport links are actually performing. Okay, next we go down into applications, right? So this is the layer 7 application level visibility. And this comes from the built-in DPI engine that we have that today recognizes about 3,300 different applications, right? Now, this is where you would obtain your top applications based on data usage, right? What are the top applications in that branch? What are the top devices? What are the top destinations, right? So this is kind of like a top 10 page where you can find out who your top devices are, right? What are the top destinations and what are the applications that are being used currently. Next, of course, is the sources. And if you can see the sources, there's a list of the top 10 sources based on the traffic bytes that are being consumed. So you get the client name, you get the client IP address, the MAC address, you get the operating system, and you can see the total bytes sent and received on a per user basis, right? So if there is a user that is having anomalous traffic usage, it's very easy to pinpoint and find the culprit from this screen. Okay, and next we get into destinations. So this is where you would visualize the traffic to the destinations based on a given application, right? So here we know that Google Video is the top application or the top destination, and we're sending a lot of traffic to Google Video, right? So that's quick insights into what are the top destinations. And next, we get into SD-WAN system level visibility, right? So now this is for the edge, the branch edge. It will give you the CPU, the memory utilization, the flow counts, the handoff queue drops, as well as the tunnel counts, right? What are the total number of flows passing that edge? What is the total number of tunnels that have been built? And this is typically over an 8-hour period, right? So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, next we just wanted to cover this concept called overlay flow control, right? Now this is your central view into all the routing that's going on in your SD-WAN fabric, right? All the routes that are coming into the SD-WAN fabric, whether they're coming in from a branch or a non-vehicle outside tunnel or a legacy data center, whatever the source, you can see all the routes here, right? Now, these are both underlay and overlay routes, right? If there's any routes being incorrectly learned, this is a good place to come and see that and troubleshoot that, right? This is also where you would set your global routing preferences, right? What are the different kinds of routes that you would like to receive, right? From the edge, from the hubs, from the partner gateways. So all of this can be defined here, and it's as simple as checking a checkbox to accept those kind of routes. Okay, now with that introduction to basic monitoring, let's go ahead and talk about what are some of the enhancements that are coming to the VeloCloud SD-WAN product. Okay, now one of the biggest enhancements that we have been working on is called the path visibility. And path visibility essentially, right now we have quality of experience scores on the transport links from any edges viewpoint, right? Now, one of the asks one of the things that customers have asked us for is a quality of experience score between sites, right? So if you pick any two given sites, let us say we pick San Francisco and Sacramento, we should be able to come up with site-to-site QoE scores, which include the jitter, latency, packet loss, and assign a QoE score to any two given sites, right? Now, this can be historical, this can be real-time. We can quickly diagnose the user experience impact. Let's say there's a user experience impact between San Francisco and Sacramento. So by looking at this QoE score on a historic basis, we should be able to generate a printed report to see that, okay, we had issues with the quality of experience during this time frame between these two sites, and that's what impacted the user experience. Okay, now let's talk about a little bit about the notifications and alerts that are available. So if you go down into monitor events, this is where you would see all of your events, all of your link alerts, your edge alerts, and where are they coming from, which edge are they coming from, what severity are they, and what is the actual message, right? So this is where you would see the alerts. And if you go into alerts and notifications, this is where you would configure your alerts and notifications, right? Now, in the alerts and notifications, you can always specify a destination for these alerts. Typically, a destination can be an email address or SMS or an SNMP trap, right? Now, you could always you could choose what kind of alerts you want to receive. Edge down, edge up, link down, link up, VPN tunnel down, HA alerts, VNF alerts, right? So all of these alerts, and then finally you choose where you want to send it to. Do you want to email these alerts? Do you want to SMS somebody? Do you want to send an SNMP trap, right? Now, here's an example of the email alert that's going out. Okay. Now, see, let's take a look at what kind of troubleshooting tools are available to us and how would we use them. So if we go to test and troubleshoot and we go into remote diagnostics, that opens the troubleshooting tools window that is available to us. And some of the tools will be very familiar to you. So the idea behind these troubleshooting tool is that they're actually from the VCO, you do an API call to the edge, and you're actually running these command line commands, and they're called debug.py commands. And you're actually running these debug.py commands on the edge itself, right? Some of the examples could be a DNS lookup or ARP table. Let's check what the ARP table looks like. Let's go ahead and check what the flows look like. Let's go ahead and check what the paths looks like, right? So some of these are very commonly used in troubleshooting issues. Like some of the things that I personally use when troubleshooting issues is, let's take a look at the PCAP capture. Let's take a look at the diag bundle. Let's take a look at the flows. Let's take a look at the list paths. This is the overlays that have been built from the edge to the gateways, or the edge to the hub. This could also be dynamic overlays being built between branches for dynamic branch-to-branch connections. So there's a wealth of information that you can get from here. And the idea is that you should not need to go to the command line, and whatever you need is available within these troubleshooting commands. Okay. Okay, now let's just take a look at some of the interfaces that are available to us for troubleshooting and for monitoring, right? So as you are aware, the VeloCloud Orchestrator supports a northbound RESTful API. The API exposes the network topology. So there's API commands that you can run to get the network topology, the flow metrics, the link quality events, the alerts, events. There's many, many more, right? So essentially, whatever you see in the GUI is a subset of the capabilities that are available on the API. Now, the API is a superset, right? So there's a lot of things that you can do with the API that are not possible within the GUI, because obviously it's not possible to build all of that capabilities within the GUI. So I would say if you go to code.vmware.com, that's where you will see our API documentation. That's where you will see code samples. You can use Java, Python. There's a bunch of languages that you can use with our REST API and make those API calls and get the data that you need. Now, also we have integration with Plixer, SEV1, Live Action, vRealize Network Insights that is using our REST API to query for certain kinds of information. Now, the VMware SD-WAN Edge also has open interfaces. So it supports NetFlow version 10, which is IPFix. And there have been a lot of enhancements recently within the NetFlow records that we support. SNMP. Now, we do support SNMP version 2C. And recently, with the version 3.3.1, we launched an SD-WAN capable MIB. Now, this MIB contains a wealth of information about your SD-WAN network. A lot of this information is a duplicate of REST API that's available in the SNMP. But the SNMP has information also that is in addition to the REST API. And finally, you have the syslog, which is events and then firewall logs that can be sent to an external syslog server. Okay, now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Verni integration, right? Now, Verni is a tool that is very capable and is as a multi-domain monitoring and analytics tool. So what I mean by that is that Verni can look at the public clouds. Verni can look at virtual machines, containers, microservices. It can look at data centers such as NSX data centers, vSphere. It can have certain amount of visibility into the users, apps, data, and then finally it can have visibility into all the SD-WAN fabric as well, right? And in the demo, we'll see how Verni helps us troubleshoot issues within the SD-WAN fabric. Okay, and that's exactly what I was talking about. this is some of the most comprehensive network and security visibility solution out there. It will look at the virtual environments, the physical network, the switches, routers, many different vendors, firewalls, load balancers, containers, public clouds, and then finally SD-WAN edges and gateways. Okay, so it has very app-centric workflows. Okay, and we will understand what that means when we show the demo, but essentially everything revolves around the application, right? And everything revolves around the flows. So we're going to be troubleshooting applications or performance issues with applications, and we'll see how. Okay, and these are the use cases, the 5 use cases that we have targeted. This is the information that we're getting. So we get the configuration and the runtime from the VCO. From the edges and the hubs, we're getting the IPFix information and the SNMP information. So the very first use case is an assessment tool, right? This is an assessment tool which we run essentially before the SD-WAN is deployed to showcase what is the ROI of deploying an SD-WAN network, right? This will analyze your applications, your flows, your WAN links, and it'll come up with some cost optimization and some recommendations that you can use to justify SD-WAN. Then we have visibility and analytics. There's a lot of dashboards, performance dashboards, analytics, path visibility and hotspots. So it will give you path visibility. It'll visually show you the path of the flow going all the way from the SD-WAN edge, the client in the branch, to all the way to the server, right? Then we'll look at some use cases for troubleshooting. Capacity planning and security are still in the planning phases. Okay. Now, key differentiators for vRealize Network Insights are basically it's try deploy. It's a SaaS-based solution. It's vendor agnostic, which means it'll look at many different vendors for physical and virtual. And it's built for multi-cloud, right? It will look into AWS, it'll look at Azure, look at VMware environments. Okay, now this is where we can break into the demo, right? And I think we have enough time for the demo. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let's go ahead and see the demo here. Okay, so let's go ahead with the demo now. So in this demo, we're going to see the capabilities of vRealize Network Insights, or VRNI, as it relates to troubleshooting, analytics, and visibility for an SD-WAN network, right? So we're actually going to go through 2 scenarios. In the first scenario, now, of course, any traffic is not always going to be within the SD-WAN fabric, right? So it's going to travel the SD-WAN fabric. It's going to travel through maybe a data center. In the first case, we'll see if the problem was not with the SD-WAN fabric, how does VRNI troubleshoot that? How does it have visibility into that? And in the second case, we'll see the problem did originate from within the SD-WAN fabric. How does VRNI have visibility into that, and how does it troubleshoot that? So that being said, let us take a look at the topology that we have here. Essentially, what we have here is that we have a few branches in Pune, Amsterdam, and Detroit. And then we have the Washington Data Center, or WDC. We also have an SD-WAN hub site at OVH. Right? Now, the scenario involves a client in Detroit branch, and the client is not able to play the video that he's trying to access. Now, the client is trying to access a video training application called Hive Media, and which VMware uses internally for video training purposes, right? Now, the front end for this Hive Media application actually resides in WDC, or the Washington Data Center. The back end for this application resides in AWS, right? Now, the WDC site is an NSX data center with Dell switches and servers. Now, let's take a look at the scenario, right? So we have a user which is trying to access the application, and all he can see is buffering going on. This is essentially, we're logged into the branch, and we're trying to play the video, and all we can see is there's buffering going on. We cannot access the video, right? So let's take a look at what could be going on, right? Let's click next to proceed. Now we're going to go ahead and log into the vRealize Network Insights console, and then we'll click on Application. Now the application is actually located, it's being reported at the Detroit branch end user, right? So we're going to go to the Detroit branch, and we're going to click on Application. Now these are the applications that are at the Detroit branch, right? Now, Hive Training is the application that is of interest to us, right? So we're going to go ahead and click on the Hive Training application. Now, once this is loaded, we can see an overview of our application, right? Now we can see the video tier, the storage tier, the Detroit branch, the Rotterdam branch, and other entities that take part in this application. Now we can see on our video tier that the video front end is hosted in our Washington data center. And we can see from the red marks that there is a problem, right? There's an indicated problem. Now we can also see two red lines there, and these red lines indicates the flow issues between the video tier and the Detroit branch, and the video tier and the storage, which is actually hosted in AWS EC2, and it is the backend for the application. Now let's click on flows and degradation analysis between the Detroit branch and the video tier in our Washington data center. So we click on that, and now as soon as we click on flows and degradation analysis, we will see all the flows that are occurring between the Washington data center, Hive server, and our Detroit branch. Now we're going to go ahead and scroll down to the active flow, right? Which is essentially originating from 101.100.1.127 at the Detroit branch. Now this is the client connecting to the Hive video server at our Washington data center, right? Now let's click on the actual flow. Okay. Now here we get a full end-to-end view topology from our Detroit branch end user over our VeloCloud SD-WAN connected into our Washington data center and going through the NSX and reaching the video server running at the backend. Okay. Now at this point of time, we will click on the VM underlay and we'll switch it to the Hive video server, right? Now we go ahead and do that, and we can see the alerts at this point of time that are going on in our VM. We can see red marks at the VM, and we can see alerts on the physical NIC in our underlay, right? Now we see the alerts. This is the physical server. This is the physical NIC. So we see that there is an alert there. Now the physical NIC is connected to Ethernet 1/1/28:1, which is our underlay physical switch. So now we're going to go ahead and click on that underlay switch. And now we can see the information for the 1.1/1/28:1. We can see that there's packets being dropped on this underlying switch port. So let's click on that link, and we see packet drops. We can see that, let's take a look at the actual switch metrics. So let's click on the 6-hour view to zoom in. Now let's click on maximize to look at more detail. Right. Now from here, from this view, we can see that there is a saturation on the physical Ethernet port of 10 gigabits per second. We can also see our interface speed for the switch port is actually 10 gigabits per second. So now we have saturated the actual port, and we're also showing drop packets, and we're showing interface peak buffer utilization streaming from the underlay switch to the network insights has reached its buffer fullness, right? Now this is a clear indication of network saturation on this physical port, right? Now, let's go ahead and resolve the situation. Now, to quickly resolve the issue for the end user so they can complete their training, what we're going to do is we're going to vMotion this particular VM, which is a Hive Media Server VM, to a different host, right? That is on a different physical port in the underlay. Let's go ahead and vMotion our Hive Media Server from host 16 to host 15. Let's go ahead and click Next. Okay, there's the vMotion. So ready to complete. So we see that it's on host 15 now. So after completion, it's going to go, actually, it was on host 16 and it moved to host 15, right? Now, after we do that, we're going to see that the video is now playing very well, right? Okay. Okay. Now, now that we have resolved the issue, the video is playing. That tells us that, okay, vRealize Network Insights was not only able to find out where the paths are for the SD-WAN fabric, for the SD-WAN flow, and not only that, it could look into the physical switchboard and find out, okay, there was a problem on the physical switchboard, and this is where you could analyze it, right? Now, let's take another look at it. Let's look into Flow Insights and Analyze. Once we click on Flow Insights and Analyze, we will click on Analyze for the last 24 hours. Now, this will load up all our top talkers inside our data center. Let's click on Network Performance. Here, within our chart for network performance, we can now see all of our flows within our data center. Now, we can see that we have 10 abnormal flows, right? Now, let's click on the abnormal flows, and now we're able to see that Verni does automation, automating the baseline, right? Now, the abnormal flows are the ones exceeding the baseline, right? We can see all the details around the TCP round trip time, the packet drop, and flow traffic for our abnormal flows, and we can begin troubleshooting from there, right? So that's another option to troubleshoot Hive, to troubleshoot abnormal flows from the entire data center view, right? Now let's take a quick look at how Verni would troubleshoot problems if they were occurring within the VMware SD-WAN fabric, right? Now let's take a look at, this is another use case. It's the same scenario. It's the user at the Detroit branch not able to play the video for the Hive Media Server application. Let's go ahead and go to Verni. Let's click on VeloCloud Enterprise. This is the VeloCloud SD-WAN dashboard. Now, we can see that in the applications, there is one application that needs attention. So let's click on that. And we see it's the Hive Media Server application, right? We're going to click on Hive Media. We can see that it says that there's application packet loss that is exceeding the threshold, right? So we click on that. We see that this is on the Detroit branch. So we click on the Detroit branch. Now, once we do the click on the Detroit branch, we can see that there is some more details here. First of all, there is a topology, right, for the Detroit branch, right? Now, the Detroit branch, it will show all the hosts connected, all the IP addresses, the edge, the connections on the edge going out to the internet, as well as to the gateways and to the MPLS, right? So it shows the underlays, shows the overlays. So let's click on, now we have narrowed down the problem. We know that the problems with the Detroit branch. We know there's a problem with the application at the Detroit branch, and let's go down, narrow down into that. So it says one unhealthy application. Now, since we know that we're troubleshooting the Detroit branch, and let's take a look at the VeloCloud Orchestrator. A lot of these problems can be due to misconfiguration of the business policy, right? The Hive Media application is classified, as you can see here, as media, right? So let's take a look at if there's any misconfiguration here. Now, we know that, okay, so what we saw was that this was classified as low. It was also being rate limited, and it was being sent direct. So what we're going to do is for this application, since it's a critical application for us, we're going to change the priority to high. We're going to remove the rate limit, and we're going to make it multi-path, right? So we make it high, we remove the rate limit, and we make it multi-path, and that solves the issue. Right. Now, in this demo, we explored two different troubleshooting scenarios. One in which the problem was within the SD-WAN fabric, and we can see all healthy here, and the other in which the problem was outside of the SD-WAN fabric. With that, that concludes this demo. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and take any live Q&A that you might have. So if you have any questions, now would be a great time to get it answered live. And I'd be happy to answer questions as they come in live. So please go ahead and submit your questions to the Q&A tab, and I will definitely go ahead and answer them. Okay, looks like there are no more live questions. So thank you everyone for joining. It was great presenting this session to everyone. And please join us for our next vForum online. And please go ahead and click on this URL. This would be on May 13th. And we hope that you can make it to this event. Thank you so much.